Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is the 23rd of March. It is 2025 on the ancient moon calendar. It's actually 2026 on the ancient sun calendar. It's also 1445 on the ancient Islamic Muslim calendar. It is 5785 on the ancient Hebrew Israelite calendar. It's 10,066 on the ancient Yoruba calendar. And it's millions and millions and trillions and millions and trillions of years on the ancient Moorish calendar, the Al-Moroccan calendar. Our empire is forever Islam. Before time was ever recorded, we are. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity and in alignment and according to the ancient Noahide laws as stated by this holy Congress. This is a sovereign living ancient Article 3, Moorish American Al-Moroccan Universal Court action. We are the sovereign living justices and Eggleston Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is like Tajiri Bay. All are in capitis diminution nolo in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are capit et corpus juris legalis, which is our statement that we are the lawful and legal, one and only natural living head and body for our empire. All Moors are the divine, original, indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites, Canaanites, Shemites, Israelites, Cushites, and Hittites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our honor, our credit, our hearts, our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient Moroccan empire. We're the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are ancient Washington District for Columbia. We're the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Earth-wide Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Ancient English is our national language, and that is the spell that is cast on the screen. We are the law by our sovereign status, which is the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient Article 3 living United States District for Columbia Court. And we are the sovereign fiduciaries, original creditors, executors, divine ministers, possessors, grantors, grantors, and title trustors for all causes for action. And our system is the trustee. We are peace. We are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby recognize ourselves and accept our divine sovereign ascension. We do possess in our custody all land, all natural resources, and all commerce. We, the true living God nation, are not at war. We are war, and we are all eternal, ancient, original sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc-pro-tunc, Islam. So everyone who has ever read a bibliothek or a Bible, as some call it, Bible just means book, knows that life is in our blood. Leviticus, the 17th chapter, verse 11 says, "For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it for you on the altar to make at-one-ment or atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that makes atonement by the life." This one scripture reading is why whenever persons went to a church, and we will put that in air quotes, that you were said to have given your life to Christ. That means you gave your life away and you decided to be a corpse. We're not mad at Christians and Christianity and Christendom because the word Christian is misspelled. There was no C in the ancient alphabet, and there's no C in the current alphabet. It is Christendom with a K. Christen, when you christen a baby, you give the baby a name, and then you put them on the water. That was the story of Moses. Moses was actually put on the water. That means that he was made commercial. He was made commerce at birth. And the story of Moses assisting the people, the Israelites, with their freedom was them saying, we don't want capitalism under Egyptian rule. That was what the story was about. Period. They were saying they did not want capitalism under Egyptian rule. We'll let that sit and sink in because it's important as we continue to do what we're doing that it is clear why we're doing what we're doing. Foreign capitalism, and we're starting to see people talk about that more in the mainstream. Foreign capitalism, number one, it's not valid because it creates they call it quote unquote legal fictions, but that's not even a thing. How are you legal but you're a fiction? That doesn't make sense. Those are what we call falsehoods, lies. You cannot be legal and fiction at the same time. It just doesn't make sense. Okay? So with that being stated, it's all about declaring your true status. Your status is according to your bloodline and birthright. If you are foreign to this land, you are a citizen. If you are not foreign to, or subject, actually, and subject is actually the right term because until 1954, there was no law that treated to citizenship. There was no such thing as citizenship until 1954. Between 1954 and 1956. So let's let that sink in also. Anything that has to do with this land is all about the original people. Now, here lately, we are seeing that the subjects are coming to us saying they don't know who they are. They're coming to us by way of email and person to face, and saying we don't know our status. Okay? Their status is subjects to us on this land. That's anyone saying, oh, we're not subject to the Moors, whatever. They're not even on the land. They're agreeing to be a fiction, therefore they're non-existent. They're choosing not to exist. It's a choice. Here on the screen, this is just something that I saw, and this is in passing, as we move forward to things that are real. In the funny mirror, the one previously doing business as Hunter Biden, okay, that was from the previous era, has stated that he's not only broke, in other words, poor, a pauper, but also in debt, okay, claiming poverty because they know what time it is. Okay. So with that being stated, again, the truth of the matter is that we were never poor. We were never paupers. But our this past 7-day cycle, we have proven beyond any doubt that we have complete control over all natural resources, all land, all commerce, and all of that with our national trade launch that we began this week. And it's always been, we're just connecting with our ancient foremothers and forefathers. Okay. So we're excited about the national trade launch and the success of it. The success of the national trade launch is measured by the fact that it happened in the first place. That was the success is measured by that. That for the first time in over 100 years in the previous era, we've opened this new era using real money and natural resources to begin the commerce. And so what we did, this is what we did by the leading of the Spirit within us. What we did was we put up signs out. We put up 9 signs, 9, because that's the number that the Spirit said do. We put up 9 signs out at the territory, and on the 9 signs, we stated where we're located. What does that mean? That just means that anyone who showed up was just a witness and affirming that we're on the land. Whether they said anything, whether they, gave their information, no matter what happened, if they showed up looking for commerce according to that sign, the signs that we put up, they were just witnesses to the fact that we're on the land, because the address, the location that we put on the signs was in ancient English. And we used Roman numerals on the dates. And people still showed up. Not persons, people. People still showed up, affirming that we're on the land, and yes, this is the right place. According to the signs that we put out, this is the right place. So let us just show you basically what the sign looked like. That's what our sign looked like. We put 9 of them up throughout the territory. And people still came. That just means you are a witness that y'all know that this is the land and not someplace foreign. And yes, we did court actions on every one of them. Every one. What is your name? And let me just state that only subjects showed up. There was only subjects that came. And so we had the opportunity to do court actions and then give them some information about who we are and that, yes, we are here on our own land. And so are you. You're on our land too. So the national trade launch had an ulterior motive, a superior motive. And it was just to let everyone know we're here. That was it. We did not, to us, them giving their information in order to receive the saltwater minerals was not our true motive. That was not our true motive. We already have that information. Our true motive was due process, court actions, and proper notification. That was our motive. That's always been our motive. It was not hidden. It's not a hidden motive. It's not hidden. We didn't, I can't say we didn't care, because that's a term that we don't use, but that was not even our motive of them getting saltwater minerals. That was not really the motive. It wasn't. It just, if they did, that was great. But it was a success, a 100% success. We did exactly what our motive was to do, is to let them know that, no, we don't spell like you spell. You were taught in error, and that we're on the land, and these are natural resources that we have here. And it worked like a charm, if I might use that colloquialism. It worked like a charm. Our ancestors know what they're doing through us, through each and every one of us. So there's always a bigger picture and a superior motive with everything that we do. Everything that we do. So we're going to continue doing the national trade launch. What we did was we set our stand out with the salts and things. We set that out just so that we could speak in our seeds, and things like that. We set that stuff out. And then we just waited. We just waited. We sat and we just waited. And sure enough, people came, not persons, people. People who can read. Some were just curious. They were just, and let me tell you that not one of them asked us, why do you spell like that? Not one asked any questions like that. Not one. That told me they know. That told me they know. Not one asked any questions at all, really, but they didn't ask any questions about that specifically, which in our previous era, if I had seen something like that, I would have asked just out of curiosity, why do you spell that way? Not one of them. We had our turban on. They knew exactly who they were looking at. Exactly who they were looking at. And that gave us the opportunity to do our court actions. What is your name? And so on, and have the conversation. So that's the point of what we're doing, and we're going to continue doing exactly what we did then. We're going to continue doing that. So Moors, at any time that you will to demonstrate the national trade launch again, go ahead and do it. And this is important about why we do what we do. We're doing what we do because we're drawing all men unto us. We're drawing them all. They have to come. All it takes is one court action on them. One. Just one. And that's how you get everyone in alignment. And they're already put in alignment, but now it's time for them to see our face. Because they've been singing about that in churches everywhere. We can't wait to see the Savior face to face. Okay. We're right here. We stand. Our interactions were just interesting, very interesting. You get to know your power by doing things like this. There was one interaction that we had where, you know, someone came, a person came, a people came, a subject came, and of course, you know, they try to intimidate or whatever, and all we did was just, you know, stand up from our seat, rise from our seat, and we weren't seated, we were standing the whole time spiritually, and we just said, "What is your name?" And as soon as we said that, because see, when they came up, they were like, "Oh yeah, I live around here, and you know, just wondering what's going on here. You know, what is your name?" And we were so calm. And the minute we asked, "What is your name?" they began to literally, physically shake. And I was thinking, well, 2 seconds ago you were very confident. What happened? It was the spirit. The spirits know the Savior. The spirits know. And when we just stand and begin to do the court actions, you will see and know that they already know who we are. I just stood and said, "What is your name?" And the fear of God manifested right there. And it is not we're not operating from an ego place. We're not operating from a place of ego, but our power and authority cannot be denied, and we cannot shrink it back and make ourselves small. We can't do that. We must be ourselves at all times. At all times. And she stated, you know, she said her name, and then we stated who we are. And, you know, that conversation did not go on for much longer because she was very shaken. And all we did was just rise from our, you know, we were in a seated position, but not seated. We were standing in our spirit. We just stood up and said, "What is your name?" And that told us all we really needed, that was necessary for us to know about everyone knowing who we are. Nothing was even asked about anything that would have been relevant from our perspective in a previous era. None of that. Where are you from? None of that. And we didn't even allow questions. We just started talking because we have a script that we read, a scripture that we read when people come up. And that way, everybody is automatically in their proper status as we begin to present our natural resources. The resources are just a vehicle. They're a conveyance method by which we give proper notification and due process. That's all that is. That's all. See, listen, that's all business and commerce was to begin with. All it was a way for them to push Christianity and fiat on everybody. With these signs, we conquer. And they had a cross and a flag in their enactment. A cross and a flag. With these signs, we conquer. We learned. We remember. And so with these signs we conquer. We're doing the same thing. Flags, signs, and wonders, Islam. So we're excited about what all of this means. And again, this in some instances, not all of them will be closed, but some will be. So now, the national trade launch, I'm just excited because this is the beginning of, I just see so many things blossoming from this. There was some energy or an attempt to make it seem like the small things don't matter. We know that the small things, it's the little foxes that make all the difference in the world. It's the little foxes that cause the vine to just flourish and bloom. It's the little things, because see, it's those little subtle things that that caused the sleep enactment. Someone asking you, what is your name? Even as I was doing the court actions, I was thinking about when I worked in corporate America, quote unquote, and how every single time without fail that someone who was of higher rank, quote unquote, came through any of the businesses that we were working at, they would always ask us, what is your name? Even if they knew it, they would still come through and ask, what is your name? Always. And now we know why. They were enacting being of superior birth. That's what that is. That is nobility. KNOW, nobility. So, what we have done and what we're seeing is we have come out of Babylon, because that's what that was. Capitalism is Babylon. Foreign capitalism is Babylon. They would babble back something that sounds like your name, your holy sovereign appellation. They would babble that back, and you would think that they were talking to you, but they were not. That's what Babylon is all about. It's about someone saying words, or a thing saying words that sound like real words, but they're not real words. They're fictions. Our only sin in the enactment was Babylon. That was the only sin. There's no other sin. There's no other sin. There's no other crime. There's no other breaking of the law. There's no other bankruptcy. There's no other rupture. There's no other corruption other than being in Babylon, in the enactment. We see many who are trying to find their way out, but they don't know how to get out. And they're using the Babylonian system uses codes and statutes, quote unquote, because it's not even that really, to squeeze the people, to choke out the people. So today we will to speak to the titans for natural resources, those who participated in the national trade launch and those who have plans to do so. We will to show you just a couple of things that are going to cause us to prosper even more. One of the things that we will to show is something that we have rewritten. About our businesses and the things that we're doing. Let's see. Let's go back to so this is what we have. We're what we're doing for those who are merchants doing merchant actions. The Internalle Revenue Code that we have restated, it says is 162A. That's what we're looking at right now as we continue to move in merchant law and commerce. It concerns deductions for business expenses. So we are not consumers. We are producers. We are merchants who produce. That one switch, aside from nationality, that's the most important move that we could have made, is to go from consumers to producers. Because look, anything can be deducted, and what we're going to do with our deductions is we're going to bankroll them. But anything that has to do with this work that we're doing, number one, it's not taxed. And let me explain why what we're doing is not taxed. That means anything that has to do with what we're doing is not taxed. And here's why. Well, and even before this, the reason it's that nothing that we do is taxed. The reason why, number one, is because no one has the authority to tax the earth but us, and we will not do that. So when you go and you pull the pine cones from the tree and you chop it up and blend it up and make tea, and you tribute the tea to the people, that's straight from the earth. No one has the authority to tax the earth because no one is Lord of the earth but us. No one is Lord over the earth but us. And that's the reason why no one in the previous era's enactment was digging up all the resources and all the natural. They wouldn't touch them. They wouldn't touch them because this is not that. Only we can do that. So even the food the nutrition that you do exchanges on and things is not taxed. Nothing you do is taxed when you're pulling from the earth and tributing it to the people. Nothing, and I mean nothing. Okay? That's number one. Number two, everything that we do, not only is it not taxed, but it is creditable, and a deduction is a credit. In order for the actions that we do to even qualify, aside from our nationality and the fact that we've outlawed any taxes on anything we do, But in order for it to qualify, it must be ordinary, an ordinary expense. Ordinary to me is food, clothing, and shelter. That's ordinary expenses. Ordinary expenses. Those are the things that assist us in getting our commerce done, our merchant things done. It must be necessary. So it has to be an ordinary and necessary expense that was paid or incurred during the taxable year in carrying on a trade. A national trade launch sets the tone for everything that we do to not only be not taxed, but also deductible. And see, with us and our banking, our deductions are cash. So if you have if you incurred an expense for travel and you claim that deduction, those deductions are bankable. You can take that deduction to the bank and have the deductions deposited into an account. It says here, these elements have been interpreted by the courts and administrative agencies to determine if an expenditure is deductible as a business expense. See, we get to say what's deductible and what's not. Okay? So the national trade launch has many purposes. And because we are great stewards and owners and heirs and trustors over the natural resources, we must prosper. There's no reason, there's no way we cannot prosper by doing what we're doing. There's no way. And in the words of our great Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey, are we clear on the fact that we should not be, none of us should be poor? None. None of us should be poor. None. And that everything we do goes towards the empire. Everything. So, are there any questions, comments, wisdom about what we're showing you here? Just one moment. Let's go to our meeting. Just a moment. Are there, let's make sure everyone can speak. Just a moment. Now, some might say, oh, we're not taxed. We're not taxed. The Internal Revenue was never supposed to be a burden on the people. It was never supposed to be that. Never supposed to be that. It was only supposed to, we were supposed to look at it lovingly and say, I can't wait to record these deductions. I can't wait, because that's going to be another 50 or 60 million in our account for whatever it is that we're doing. Just one moment. Are there any questions, comments? Are we clear on what we stated here? Listen, we were supposed to be this wealthy the whole time. Every step you take,
everybody's still poor.
Every move you make, every step you take, you were supposed to be getting paid for that. You were supposed to be getting paid for that. Everything, every bite you eat, you were supposed to be getting paid for it. See, when the Biblios talks about give and it shall be given unto you and all of that, and tithes and offerings and all of that, and you're supposed to get that back 7 times and all of that, you're supposed to be, everything is supposed to be counted and recounted, and you're supposed to be getting paid every at every turn.
And Aisha still has no house.
You know, so
Aisha still poor Aisha, because Pauline did a fucked up job, and
they don't want you to know this, but now you know. So that's another motive for the national trade launch. That's what the national trade launch was about. Now, what we're seeing in the funny mirror, as we look at that, is that everyone who was using this, all of that is being cut all the way down. So there used to be a 100% deduction allowed for, you know, vehicles and houses and all of that. It was supposed to be 100%, and in the funny mirror, they're cutting that all the way down until it gets to 0. As they leave, as they stop doing what they were doing, as the acting stops. So whereas there was 100% deduction maybe 10 years ago, now it's down to 30% or 20% or something like that in the funny mirror as it goes away. But see, for us, it's 100%, and it's going to be that for at least a couple of decades. At least a couple of decades. As we so desire, as we so state. So again, we were supposed to be looking forward to revenuing the things that we do. We were supposed to be looking forward to that. It was never supposed to be the bowl of porridge of $3,000 or $4,000. You know, we were excited about getting our tax return and all of that. It was never supposed to be that minuscule and minor and menial. It was never supposed to be that. It was always supposed to be, if you bought a conveyance, the whole thing was deductible, and then you could actually pay it off as soon as you got it. You were supposed to pay it off as soon as you got it. That's what prepaid is all about. So what we do is we just most of those who were doing things wait until December to do their filing. And they wait until right before Christmas, because that's what Christmas was about too in the previous era, is people would get new cars and new houses right before Christmas so that they could claim that deduction for that year. And you claim it in January. On January 1st, you claim it, and you send off for that reimbursement immediately. So in the previous era, they would even say, okay, you have 90 days before you make your first payment. Well, you could pay it off before then, because you will have gotten a reimbursement for your deductions. So the things that we've been doing where commerce and mercantilism is concerned, those things, all of that is deductible. So what we're doing now is just making copies In other words, restating, because a copy is a restatement for us, because we just give it another title. Making copies of all of the receipts and all of that, adding all of that up and deducting all of that, whether we go to the grocery store, whatever it is that we do. In preparation for further manifestation of our banking. Now remember, we're not even in transition anymore. We're already there. Okay? We're not in transition. We have already landed. That's a good word. Landed. We've already landed. We're on the land. And that's another reason why I was so excited about the national trade launch, because we literally manifested on the land, literally, and there was no encumbrance, and then we just put it on the public record that yep, we've landed. See, some might to some that might not seem like a big deal, but when we're using our own money, it is a big deal. It's a big deal. It's huge. It's very huge. It's actually the biggest thing to happen, really, besides nationality. What we're doing also is the basis for those who were previously doing business as preachers. That's why their house was called a parsonage, and the church paid the bill, quote unquote, because the church would get the deduction for that, and then they would get that back.
I affirm.
They would get it back. Every one of our domiciles is a parsonage, and in our national language, vowels are in. Parsonage and personage are the same word. Parsonage and personage, same word. So again, Islam nobility.
Yeah, I was just saying I affirm what you just said about, because when I was a pastor, I didn't pay rent paid and they do the deduction. So, affirmation.
That's everything that we do is supposed to be that way. Now, another something that we will to state about what we're doing, the national trade launch and whatever business we're doing, or whatever mercantilism we're doing, is that those natural resources that we tribute are tributed by way of, again, the United States Treasury, which is us. It was us to begin with. See, people have been looking out and trying to send things out to somewhere else, calling that a treasury out there, trying to get some money back and accept it for value and get the treasury to send them something. We're the treasury for us. So Moors, take whatever resources you have and get your commercial merchant actions, court actions started. If this is bigger than a sale, as it were, it's bigger than that. It's way bigger than that. Because what we're doing is manifesting what we've always known about ourselves, And as we continue to, because see, we use the mothership strategy with the national trade launch, where all the territories, at every territory, there was someone doing a trade launch, the national trade launch, at every territory. Some that were not, that you don't hear from at this Congress, but every territory has a national trade launch that was done this week. Everyone. And when you think about the fact that all of our territories are one anyway, and there are no boundaries between us, that means that earth-wide, the national trade launch was a success.
Islam.
Ember
Shasha. Chief Justice Shasha Anbeg.
Yes, indeed.
So, yes, there was a national trade launch at Jamaica.
Yes.
Yes, and you know, I completed it. So I did a little display at the front.
Yes. That's all it took, Empress.
Right. And then when I took that down, I took some pictures, and when I took that down, a part of me said, go down the back.
Yeah.
And I said, that was enough. Anyway, I came inside, put everything away, and Spirit said, go back down to the back. And I dragged the table and set it up, and I sew flags. I had another flag, so I laid that on the table. And I also did it at my gate where I have our national flag.
Yes.
And I put it outside. I was going to just do it inside the gate. And then I said, no, put it outside, just outside the gate, and be right there. And it's a road. It's main road. It's called Old Wharf. And anyway, cars
You're too stupid to know that people...
And slowing a little, and then I hear somebody pulls up.
Yeah.
And she's a young Moor. I mean, sleeping, but lovely.
Yes.
And in the end, you know, she asked about what was going on and the whole thing, and I shared with her. And she probably was there an hour and a half.
Really?
Yes. And so I took some. I did not take pictures of either myself, not there anyway, or her. As I saw your pictures, it's like, oh, I should have put myself in there. But anyway.
Yeah.
So what I was really not looking to do anything big, you know, just put something out, ended up being really a really wonderful engagement. And as I thought about it, particularly where I am and what certain subjects who are out of a line and making claims and all of those sorts of things. But as you stated, with our money, our status on the land, trading our way.
Yes.
Really huge.
It's huge.
It really is huge. And on top of that, it's huge. Me standing right there, where I am doing this.
Yeah.
And then I finished the trade launch on the 22nd, so that was yesterday, Saturday, at the post office. Yes, and I dropped 18 packages in the mail.
Yeah.
And that piece also, I was in the taxi going, and I was finishing up my packages, and I could tell the driver was kind of looking, because I had herbs, of course.
Yes.
And at one point I said, are you not curious as to what I'm doing? But I told him I was going to say. Anyway, yeah. But when I was delivering them and thinking about the whole idea, we've been told in the funny mirror, you can't touch this particular plant, you can't take this particular fruit, you can't send this here, you can't put this here. And as I was putting my packages of, putting the packages of teas, herbals into the envelopes, I really recognized and remembered the power
in this
that action.
Yes.
These are our natural resources. And nobody can tell me what I can and cannot do with them, which ones I can and cannot do with. And it was just, that's the piece, I think, that was the biggest piece for me, particularly with the ganja thing, because all it is a plant, but how many people have been, unalived, murdered, jailed, all sorts of things for their own natural resources.
Yep.
So at some point I'll put a little slideshow together, just and put it on the public. I will put it on the public record.
Yes.
And, but no, I was very proud of myself. I was very proud. Of course, I'm proud of all of us because I knew that we were all doing it together. But in particular, for me, it was bigger than all other things. Right here in this place, standing on my square, doing. I affirm the power of that action.
Yes.
I affirm the power. I mean, it's uncontainable, unconquerable.
Yes.
And
I mean, think about, and as we're doing this too, Empress, I think about what the subjects must have felt like when they first started popping up and doing their own stuff on our what was that like? Not using gold and silver, your nerve.
And then knowing that you're not on the land and you really don't have the lawful right to be doing this. Sleep, medication, maybe?
Yes, something. Yes.
Yeah.
And see, for us, what we did too, we had a name, address, and signature page that we took out there, and we just said, okay, if you will to have some of this, because see, none of what we put out there was for sale. We would just get the name and address and signature and send it to them.
I thought about, but then I know for me, just the move was big. But I did in my mind, I thought, I ought to have something to, but it was bigger than just the way it happened.
All our ancestors will that we get started. Just do it. Like the Nike commercial says, just do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge. There is let me pull this up really quickly because I will that you see, I believe it's, let me see where that is. I believe it's the 5th chapter. No, it's the 4th chapter, I think. Just a moment. There's something I will to read. To you. Let's see. What is the scripture? It says, there's a scripture in the Biblios that says that, this is what it is. I know what it is.
Tell me and I'll tell you. Tell me what it says and I'll tell you.
Do not despise small beginnings. That's Zechariah 4:10.
Okay, that one. Mm-hmm.
For the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. All we had to do was start. That's all we had to do was start. Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. To see the plumb line. Let me just pull it up. Did you all notice that quote unquote AI is doing all the search things here. It says it right there, AI overview.
Oh yeah, it's wreaking a lot of havoc too in our document.
You know, it's still learning us. It's still learning us. But we have better results today than we had 7 years ago. I know that.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, it's powerful.
So as it continues to learn us, it's our system. It says to see the plumb line in Zerubbabel's hand. So all our ancestors' wills was that we just get started. It didn't have to be the size of Walmart, because in reality it's bigger than that.
And they say the journey of 1,000 miles begin with the first step.
Of course. Do you realize that we established the Silk Road between here and Jamaica, and for everyone who's done this, the Silk Road is established. It's already established because we're sending to each other. The supply line is there, and it's an endless supply line. It's endless.
Oh, I need to ask you a question, if you don't mind.
I do not.
Sorry to interrupt your flow.
Sure.
But one of our own reached out to me. I won't call any names for us to trade with each other. But the challenge we were facing was the label and the postage, the postage thing. So, any suggestions on how we can do it within Canada, Canadian land?
Yes. Our suggestion to you is to declare the process. You all look at how things are done there, declare the process, and put it on the public record, and then start doing it. You have to write the process, is what we're saying, the same way we wrote it here, so that you're able to go into the post office and you don't have to talk to anybody, just get the labeling and then use it. But see,
go ahead.
The way that we did it was we just put the law on the public record, and we notified the subjects in the Office of Postal Service that this is what we're doing, and then we just start doing it. And yes, there was some pushback in terms of the process. Some of our stuff got sent back to us and all this and that throughout that time period, but we just kept at it in terms of the things that were sent back was just trying to get us to perfect the process. That's all the things that everything that came back. If it had a zip code instead of a post office code, then it got sent back, or whatever the case may be. You just have to work through, read the post office manual and see what first class shipping looks like, and then write the process out and put it on the public record, notify them that that's what you're doing, and then do it with no fiat. The same way businesses and government does it. So, that is our suggestion everywhere. Do it the same way we did it. We have an 8-minute video that we did 5 years ago when we first started using our mailing process. And yeah, we had to work the kinks out, but once we got the kinks worked out, we've been using it for years and not paying any fiat to ship, to send things. So you have to write it because you're the law there. But the way things work for us is that we look at the suggestions in the manuals. We just look at it, and then we pretty much stick to that. But we pull out anything that's not for us. If we don't want to do something, we cherry pick. And then we make it the law. We just make it the law. And when we make it the law and put it on the public record, and for us, we just do a video about it and to notify everybody, and then we send documentation and affidavits to notify, and then it works.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we've been sending our thoughts.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
We're looking forward to seeing the process, Justice Willie, that you all write for Canaan Land. That way we can point to your process and say, everybody at Canaan Land use this process, and your mailings will go through, and you don't have to use fiat.
Okay, great.
So let us know when you all establish that process and that law, and we will affirm it and put it on the record, and boom, done.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for the demonstrations that you do. I mean, Morris, think about this. We put that process, the mailing process, on the public record 4 or 5 years ago, and been using it ever since. And no rebuttal to it. And again, when it looks like things don't work, the only reason it looks like it doesn't work is because your process has to be perfected. See, the system already knows what our processes look like. The system knows. But we have to write it and perfect that process according to the basic language of a system. That's why we look at the Postal Service manual and we pick out processes and we say, okay, we'll do it this way for the most part, but we'll change this and this and this. That way the system will know the difference between what we're doing and anything else. And then we demonstrate it. And see, when we first started using this mailing process, the system was saying only use white envelopes that are 9.5 by something, 9.5 by whatever these envelopes were. But now that we have established the process, we've we can send packages and things and parcels rather, and our parcels go through also. No matter what size the parcel is, it goes through because it's our system. We get to say. Once we establish the law for the system, then we can do whatever we will after that, add things to it, make changes to it, as long as we agree. And we did. We agreed on that. And once the people agree, it's a wrap. Islam nobility.
Empress Light, can you unlock the meeting, please?
Sure.
Thanks.
You're welcome, nobility. Once we agree, it's a wrap. And competence comes in when we actually take the time and look at what was previously written as a suggested way to do things, because that's all that other stuff was a suggestion. And then we look at it and we say, okay, this is a template for what the system will do. Let's change it and add to it and take away and make it what we will for it to be, and then use it. That goes for banking. That goes for natural resources. It goes for everything. And for us, we choose to simplify the things that are out there that were previously written, quote unquote. We simplify them. If anything, we're going to take some steps out because we don't need a lot of those steps because we're the sovereigns. And our mailings are first class mailings. That's a status statement, everyone. That's a status statement. So yes, even the post office system knows our status. Every time we use that process, that's a status statement.
So, Islam. Would you say that, so what we're doing here is operating out of trust, right? Trust law we're following, right?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. So I was just doing some research on trust because it's something that I've been studying, and it shows that the bank. I was asking the question. So when I borrow money from the bank, who lends me? Which man or woman lend me? Because I only deal with man or woman, and it says, well, the bank is a legal entity that can lend money and credit and blah blah blah. So I said okay, and it said the trust is similar because the trust is also a legal entity that can create money, it can offer credit, it can do just about anything. It has that legitimacy about it. So the power of functioning in trust in commerce is, it is lawful.
Yes.
And cannot be contested because once you're functioning out of trust, there is nothing illegitimate about it because it's the law, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. Just saying.
Sure. And nobility, thank you for that, because it's just it affirms what you've stated affirms what we're doing, what we're literally. So everyone who came this past strong over this national trade launch, everyone who came was operating before they even got there. They were already on the land. They were already on the land. Just by looking at where it was and finding our place, that was a trust move on their part. And because see, and this is something Moors did not realize how simple this is. We vote with our feet. Anyone who came was on the land before they ever got there. They were just affirming that they're on the land because of the way the sign read, the way that it was written. That's why we did it that way. So that's a trust move. That's a trust law move, whether they knew they were acting in trust or not. They were. But see, I know that they knew. I know that they knew. Everyone who came knew. See, that means there's a trust on the land that has always been there because they didn't even ask about it. There were no questions about any of that. No one questioned us. No one questioned us. No one questioned us. They just came. And to me, that was just profound. It just meant, it is an open admission that they knew. They saw turbans. Our flag, we were sitting right there.
Yeah, and no one can come to you and say, oh, what you're doing is unlawful, it's illegal, because once you're operating out of trust law, it cannot be violated because they have been operating under the same trust law for many years. That's what they have been doing. So we're just doing basically what is legitimate and lawful. Ain't no law being broke here. And a trust, you have unlimited power under the power of a trust to do whatever. You can create credit. You can even lend to government.
Of course.
Right? So yeah, it's just eye-opening as to when you're operating on the trust law, how powerful it is, and it's basically a contract, and the Constitution says that you cannot make any law to impair the obligation of contract, so you can't interfere with that.
Everybody who came here agreed to be under that. Automatically, because it's on the public record.
Exactly.
See, when we would go to the mall or to the bank or anywhere, just by virtue of it being a fiat enactment, we were agreeing to be under that until we state otherwise.
Right.
So now we can go to the grocery store or places like that and not be under contract because we have our own. Happy New Year, Morris. Yes, Justice told us Happy New Year. Indeed. How huge this is just, my mind expands every day when I think about how huge this is. Even if you had just one bag of tea that you set out there, the fact that you were not accepting fiat, that exchange would happen a specific way. They could have given gold, they could have given silver, they could have just signed. See, for us, we said you don't have to give anything except that information. Just give us name and address and signature. That's it.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, even if they didn't give that, if they showed up, they were agreeing. They were agreeing. And all we needed was 2 or 3 witnesses to come forth. And they did. They did. This is huge.
Yeah, of course. And in their system, they had us sign in blank endorsements. And they used that to, help themselves.
Yes.
So now we can have our own banks. I mean, like I said, it's unlimited. Nobody has any right to interfere with it, with anything that you're doing once you're abiding on the trust law.
And no one did interfere.
Exactly. They know that they can't violate trust law. Trust me, I've even used that in their stupid courts, and I don't hear back from them. They disappeared.
All we had to do was manifest. Just demonstrate it. Just show it.
Yep.
Just do it. That's it. Just do it. It didn't have to be quote unquote broadcast worldwide on corporate media. It didn't have to do just one act. Action, rather. One action. That's it. That's all it took.
Yeah, it's just for the you sometimes just do it out of courtesy. We're just informing you. That's it. So we're just placing it on the public record that, hey, we're here and we're doing this. So, yeah, that's it. We're not asking you for permission to do anything.
No.
We're not asking you for, granting us permission, because once you start asking for permission, then you've lost sovereignty right there and then.
That's what we're stating, is that no one can impede our ability to do business on our own land, to do commerce.
Exactly.
That's what the national trade launch was really about. Also. It's just get out there. So anyone who wills to do this again, we can do it again next week. Next strong brother.
And it's the same, sorry to interrupt, but it's the same thing with a private association. You create your own laws. You have your anything that you want to do under your association. Nobody can violate that because that's a lawful legal entity.
Here's the issue with that, though, Justice Willie, because this is where people get a little bit confused by that. Is that if someone in the previous era created some private entity where they were, and some did, where they were where even molesting children was a part of what they did, they still created it under the United States Corporation Company. Whoever it is that has the original jurisdiction, quote unquote, that's what everything has to be created under.
Right.
So people could not come here from Japan or wherever, or Europe or wherever. They couldn't come here and have a, let's say, German-only club and just run red lights and run rampant and do whatever and not answer for that. No, there's an original jurisdiction here.
That is 100% correct. Just this evening, I was listening to a guy, and he was saying the same thing, and that they have the seal, the original seal.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the powerhouse. So, it's amazing. So we're on the right track. I have no doubt.
Yeah. And when you talk about seals, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about everything being under seal. In other words, the only way that it's valid is under seal. That's a scripture. That's scriptural.
Oh yeah, 7 seals. The 7 seals of Revelation.
And it's also in, I think it's James, the 5th chapter, verse 14, I think, or somewhere in there that talks about the seal. Listen. What we're doing, Empress Nana. Oh, we see you, Empress. What we're doing is far greater than just one little stand at the end of the driveway. See. That's why we just said, let's pull a few things out. Let's put a few things out, put a little table out here and sit down. Because it's huge. I mean, we're establishing some other things, some facts and some law. We're establishing fact and law. See, we can't even call them de facto anymore because factually we're doing our own commerce on the land. So now they're not de facto either. That's a problem for them, not us.
Yep.
And so as you see the subject previously doing business as Donald Trump, as you see him and Elon Musk, doing their enactments of closing everything down, it wasn't real in the first place. And see, they know that. But as we continue to manifest on our own land, there's no rebuttal to that.
You know what I observe too? Sometimes when I go and I listen to, I've been around and listening to every school of thought and so on, and I realize that I think they're coming to your class to learn from you. They're copying you.
We know that they're present.
Yeah, they're copying you a lot. Trust me. Some of the things that you're doing, they're doing it too. Trust me, are trying.
We knew that. We also know that they cannot do anything without us first doing it first and then permitting others to do it. And then they have to do it within their status. See, because that's what this Congress put on the public record, that you got to be in your proper status to make any move on this land. So just see, James 4:10. So, we don't have to capitulate because of a fiat issue, because that's where the capitulation came in previously in the enactment is but for the money, quote unquote, everybody would have been standing sovereign. All the Moors would have been standing sovereign. But they didn't see a way out of the fiat piece. All we had to do was just do it. See, go ahead, Nobility.
And by their own admission, I hear it from the horse's mouth, they say everything that you do in fiat is illegal.
Yes, it is. It's because
I could not believe when I heard one of them said it.
that's what we said.
Everything they're saying that you do with fiat is illegal and unlawful. I could not believe when the guy said that.
Yes.
He's a prominent banker too.
Well, but see, Justice Willie, that is why we could not blame anybody else for the state that we were enacting, the state of poverty and all of that. It was all an act on our part too.
Yeah.
So we can't keep pointing at them, talk about you're unlawful, you're illegal, you can't do this, you can't do that. When we are sitting up there, no, we don't have to do that.
We fell asleep at the wheel. We fell asleep at the wheel. That's it.
And who can we be mad at about that?
No, ourselves.
When all we had to do was do what we're doing now. Just do it. Do it and eschew evil, like the Biblio says. That means keep evil away from you by using real money or trust. Because see, our trusts are based on our money. And see, we were not trying to trick anybody or anything like that. We gave full disclosure on everything that we've been doing. Full disclosure. So we can have a closed Congress now because it's based on full disclosure anyway. We were doing things, and everything is out there on the record. We said we were going to do this, 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 and this. And we're doing all of that. I had some notes. Now, let me say this even about what we're doing now. Because, see, what we did, we had a signature page. It had, you know, and so anybody who came up, if they wanted to have sea salt, our saltwater minerals, then we said, okay, just give us your name and address, and we'll send it to you. And it's already prepaid. All you have to do is give us that information, and we'll send it to you. Signatures raise revenue. Did you know that? Signatures raise revenue.
Islam,
Empress.
Yes, I heard a discussion about that. Just this, what do you refer to it? Earlier.
Yes.
Because they were saying that, you know, like when you get invited to a wedding and you write your name on the guest, and you also add your signature to that, that is an ability for you to actually use those signatures and appellation names and take it to the courthouse and put a lien against it and make a claim.
Yes.
That's how it's being said.
Yeah. Signatures raise revenue. And see, the only way they were going to get signatures from us in the previous era is pure ignorance in our enactment. We didn't know it was that valuable. Signatures raise revenue because they are the demonstrated will of the people. And that's constitutional. That's why, see, the Treasury in the Constitution, it states that the only way that you can access the Treasury is by appropriation. Appropriation by law. What is appropriation? The root word of appropriation is propria. That means person. That's why we say in propria persona sui juris. So when you have, now, think about this, Morris. The appropriation of our Treasury is all about us. We know that. But the people who have been on the internet, this is why likes and clicks on the internet was so important to them. Likes and clicks were considered a signature, a digital signature. And so what did they do? They started charging people to up likes. So on those, in those enactments like YouTube and all of this, the more followers you have, then you get fiat for that in the previous era. Why? Because, and that's why they monitored so closely what was said. And they said, you're going to follow this narrative if you're going to be getting public input on, you know, if you're going to be getting likes and stuff, then you can't say what you want to say because you'll be misusing the public. So signatures raise revenue because it is the demonstrated will of the people. Now, with these natural resources that we have here, that we're using here, there is a 506C Regulation D, Justice Harrell. I believe Justice Harrell brought up Regulation D. And when you brought it up, Justice Harrell, we had that information, but when you brought it up, it was just affirmation for us that whenever you're using natural resources, then instead of having a natural living 501c3, you have a 506c. That's for natural resources. And with a 506c, and again, we don't file it under no fake fraudulent corporation. We don't file it there. We file by affidavit in our courts first, and then we notify the Internal Revenue Bank, that system, because we're the real Internal Revenue. We know that. Then once you notify them, the system, then you start keeping track of your deductions, whatever it is. Anything, if you go out to eat, you go to the grocery store, because see, all of that is needed to keep you well. And see, since our food is our medicine, that then our food falls up. It is categorized as health care, healing care. That's every meal, no matter what you eat, is deductible. You get paid back for that. So, for example, our ancient matriarch saltwater minerals company it's a living company. It's a 506c, but it's also a 508, and it's also a 805 IL, just like the temples. So it's a hybrid in terms of those numbers. 501, it's a 501 as well, but under our authority. So again, we don't file anything with fakes and frauds. We don't do that. We notify our offices. And then just start keeping track of whatever you do. Now, what's important about that too is that if you've been doing business thus far and you haven't been keeping track, you can still do an affidavit, a truth affidavit, and say, I spent approximately this much on food, clothing, shelter, whatever else, turbans, fezzes, whatever, flags, whatever, office supplies and all of that. I spent this much on that, and send that and notify by affidavit our system, and our system will reimburse you for that. Okay. What we're doing now is setting up, not setting up because it's already set up, is making everyone aware of our banking mechanism. Again, all we had to do was do what we did this past 7-day cycle, is to get started. Just do it. And all we're doing is showing each and every one of us how to prosper, is sharing how we're prospering. Our ancestors know what they're doing. It was supposed to rain, quote unquote, supposedly, those 3 days. While we were out there, it sprinkled a little bit on Thursday, I believe it was, on Thursday. And we rebutted that. And boom, no, it had to go away. It had to go away. So anything that we rebut, anything that we put on the public record is the law, and it's going to work. It's going to work, everyone. It's going to work. Everything that we state is going to work. All we have to do is just keep moving. Let's see. Now, something that we thought about even as we're beginning to look at new products and new natural resources, new ways to package our natural resources and to put them out there. In the previous era, every product had a double meaning. So, for example, Nike shoes. We know that from ancient times, Nike was an ancient Roman goddess. Okay. And that goddess was athletically inclined. Okay. Nike being an ancient Roman goddess just means that the original Nike was one of us, and she did a whole lot of stuff back in the day. She showed everybody how to do things. She started the Olympiad, and she began doing all of those things, showing people how to do them. The same way that we're doing today, we are all showing those around us how to do banking and how to do commerce based on our status, you know. But then when the Moors accepted Nike shoes from somewhere else, that gave those who were producing the shoes in their enactment, that gave them the energy to usurp and say that they were more athletically inclined than we were. That's where you started seeing something that nobody believed, really, that they could outrun us, you know, the foreigners, that they could outrun us, and that they could outdo, you know, us in all types of, you know, things, you know, athletic events. We know nobody can do that if they're not juicing and taking all types of fake stuff and all of that. If it's just regular one-to-one, we know, and that's not an ego statement. It's a scientific fact. Everyone knows that. So, and some may not agree with that, and we don't really need agreement there with that, because we know it to be true. We didn't invent genetically modified doping mechanisms. They call it dope because it affects dopamine. That's why it was called dope. And then if you get caught doping, then they suspend you. So they just made it so they couldn't get caught. You know, a story for another day. Now, another fact about the national trade launch is that we demonstrated and showed that we know where our natural resources are. So the natural resources are not hidden from us. We know where they are. We know how to get them. We know how to use them, and all of that. That's important. Now, we stated earlier that our merchant actions, because they're natural resources, they cannot be taxed, because no one has the authority to tax the earth but us, and we're not going to do that. Business and retail are taxed. See, we're doing commerce and merchant actions. Business and retail are taxed. And so by the time the natural resources got changed into other things, then there was a need to tax those retail and business things. At this point, there's no need nor reason for anyone to be taxed at all, actually, on land, unless we say so. And we've not stated that. What the national trade law also made it so that we can demonstrate the necessity for buildings and structures and things to continue doing what we're doing. So eminent domain by way of the government is fully activated. Okay. All we had to do was start with what we have. Whatever, we just start right where we were. And we've done that. And so with us no longer being in transition, we've already arrived. We've already accelerated everything. And we have catapulted ourselves forward and upward. I'm just reading through my notes to ensure that all of the statements that we will to make are made. I think that's everything. So with that, are there any questions, comments, wisdom? We're going to continue doing what we're doing. And then here's the thing. As any moves that we make from this point forward are still always done by court action and by statement. We're not asking permission. We're stating what we're doing. We're going to start moving out onto the territories commercially using our courts to do so. We're not asking permission. We're going to just notify.
Islam. That's like other people use like manuals and books to get instructions to share. If you don't mind, do you have a source or are you going by natural inclination?
What do you mean?
Or inspiration?
For what?
Like what you share, your wisdom and stuff like that. How are you getting these inspiration and deep dive to be able to be, sharing the wisdom that you're sharing?
Justice Willie, I'm so glad you asked. You in particular. All inspiration comes from the Spirit within us.
Wow.
Every bit of it comes from the Spirit within us. And then what we do is the Spirit will lead us according to whatever questions we have for the Spirit, and the Spirit will tell us where to go to get the information.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's nothing new under the sun, Justice Willie. All we have to do is honor the system that we set up, because we set all these systems up.
Mm-hmm.
All we have to do is honor the system by looking at how what language the system speaks, and then putting it in our own language.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do that, according to the Spirit, everything that I read I always read it through the eyes of the Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why we were stating to you and to Justice Akil and to a couple of others, yes, you can do the actions, but you must be in connection. Not connection because you're always connected, but you must activate your ancient ancestral connection so that the information comes alive for you. So that you're not just checking boxes on, yep, I sent this affidavit, I said this, and I did this. It's not just check box. The Spirit will go before you and clear the way for you. But we have to we have to say it. We have to state it. We have to put it on the record. And the Spirit will do the rest.
I think that's a very powerful answer and the reason I ask is that, most people who are divulging information similar to this has to be poring over a lot of books and manuals and doing a lot of classes and this to be able to get this wisdom. So, and I've been to many quarters and it's just an affirmation of what you're doing. Like I said earlier, it's like somebody is listening to you. So, it's like they come sitting at your feet, and learning from those manuals. But so it's just awesome. Again, I thank you very much for that answer.
Thank you to Justice Willie. The Spirit, the ancestral spirit within us all, because we all have the same ancestral spirit. That's what the blood is all about. The Spirit would not let us go to a whole bunch of different places to get the information. The Spirit would not let us, and when I say that, the Spirit would not let us get up and go register for a class and go take the class. And the Spirit would not let us do that. Whenever we thought about doing that, even when we first woke up, our first thought was, well, maybe we'll go to the nearest Moorish Science temple. And I'm not saying anything negative about the temples. We love them. But the Spirit wouldn't even let me do that. Somehow, every time when I would try and think that I was going somewhere to get some new information, I would get there and it wouldn't be new information. The Spirit would have already told us those things. So I stopped doing that and I said, okay, I'm just going to listen to the Spirit because the Spirit is telling us. And then what we do is we do look at whatever process it is. We're just going to look out there and search and see. And when we ask, we will receive. We receive the information. And we know that the ancestors will that we write the processes. And then do them. Write them, write the law, make it plain so that he that reads it can run with it, can move with it. So the bibliosis is one of our resources, but the Spirit is the first resource. And we all have the same Spirit, so we can all do this.
Oh, wow. As you mentioned that, sorry to be so talkative this evening, but as you mentioned that, just this week I learned from somebody, I won't call the name, but he actually took out a 1611 or older version of the Bible from the Vatican and say it's a book of commerce.
Yes, yes. All treaties, all of that. This was all about commerce in the first place, and proper and competent use of the resources at Earth. That's what dominion over the earth is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. That's what government was even set up for. To govern resources. It just so happens that some in the previous enactment, people became things. People became persons, and a person is a thing. And then they began trying to tell people what to do and throwing people in jail and all this and that and this and that. No. That's not how this works.
They corrupted.
They corrupted it, of course. And that's why they were bankrupt from day one, because they had to do so many ruptures or corruptible things. They had to be bankrupt from day. They could never be clean, because you can't start out clean and get dirty. You start out dirty and you're dirty. You know, they had to be dirty, because that's what bankrupt really means. It means that there's a rupture or a failure in the system somewhere.
And then they introduce fiction, because technically it's man to man that does business, not man to corporation, because that's incompatibility.
Yeah.
So it's man to man, woman to man, woman to woman. You get the point.
Yes.
That does business. Say, for instance, you and I agree on something. We both sign off on it, and we both are honorable. So we both honor our commitment to the contract, because both of us have signed it. And here's the proof of signature. But what we find is that in the fictional world that they have created, it's man doing business with a fiction which is incompatible and fraudulent, because now there's no accountability on the other side, while your signature is here. So where's the second signature?
Well, Justice Willie, that tells you that they don't have the authority to even speak to us, because we're not corpses. That's what I'm saying about when you go to and I'll just use this as an example, because we've all, going to a fake court. Who are they talking to? They're not talking to you. That's the point, really.
Yeah.
And that's why we had to have our own courts.
It was intended to deceive and capitalize and manipulate situations and people.
You do that in your proper person. You must be in your proper person in order to govern. Corporations cannot govern. That's why we don't go to fake courts.
That's true. That's so true. Wow.
And that's why they don't. That's why you know, a lot of Moors felt like, oh, they don't listen to us. They don't hear nothing. They can't hear us. They're corpses.
Yeah.
We're not even talking to them. We tell them what to do. We tell them what to do. We tell them, you're dead, so be dead. That means be quiet. It's very fundamental. It's very fundamental. You know, and that's why, that's another reason why, Justice Willie, we say we can't blame them. If we keep listening, they're gonna keep talking. But see, if we're listening to them, that means we're agreeing to be a corpse.
That's correct. And I heard someone said just now, let's say you're stopped on the road, they pull you over, and the moment they say, what's your name? And you answer, what's your date of birth? You've just agreed to be the person.
Yes. And
they just took you out of status.
If they say good morning to you and you say good morning back, you've agreed to be a corpse. See? See, people think that just because they're nice to me. No, they're trying to take jurisdiction, and you're giving it to them. So no, it's not a good morning. What is your name? That's all I got for you. You know.
Yeah.
Justice Willie, that's why we don't worry. See, when you know what you know right now, you don't worry about anybody kicking your door in, because they're only looking for a corpse to answer.
Yeah. And when you agree, you know what I've learned too? When you agree on the date of birth,
yes,
if you should examine it closely on the birth certificate, the fraudulent birth certificate, there's your real date of birth, but there's also the date, another date that it was registered, and that is the day you should give them, not your date of birth. It could be about 3 to 5 days later if you decide to talk to them, although you should not. But I'm saying if you should really want to give them something, you should not be giving them your actual date of birth, but the actual date that is mentioned on the thing, which is not your date of birth, but it's about registration a few days later. Just get what I mean. But technically, I agree with you, 100% silent. And they tell you, keep your mouth shut. What they say? anything that you say will be against you because you open your mouth, you know. You give us jurisdiction. You agree to be the corpse.
Right. So you have to put your proper status on the record. So here's the thing. They can't use a court action against you because you're the court. You see what I'm saying? So when you say, what is your name, and you know you're doing a court action, then they're already in court. You see? So they can't use that against you because you're the court. So you can't go into someone else's state court and try to say, well, judge, you lied about this or you lied about that. You can't even do that in there. They can say whatever they want to say in a fake court. They can say whatever they want to say because you're there. You were affirming them pretending to be judges. You were saying they're real judges when you go there. You see what I'm saying? We vote with our feet. That's what I was saying. And see, we used that same strategy with the national trade launch. We put up signs about, okay, if you come here, this is where you coming. You're coming to this mailing location here. This is the land. We don't spell it the way you spell it. If you show up, that's where you're coming. And it worked like a charm. It worked. All we have to do is like our prophet said, if I can just get you to think, you'll free yourself. Justice Willie, I'm so grateful that you're here.
Because I'm grateful to be learning at your feet.
You're not at my feet. I don't allow sovereigns at my feet because I'm not going down to anybody's feet either. So
symbolic.
Islam. We receive and accept the energy. Yes, we do, because it's great intention. So, you know, I'm excited for us. I'm so excited for us. Because, see, we have the formula. Everybody who came to the national trade launch, they came knowing they knew about jurisdiction and how to get it, but you can't get it when you came into my court. So when they say the ball is in your court, then anybody coming, you're coming under our authority, unless you're a sovereign. And the sovereigns, we're face to face with sovereigns. But so the energy was beautiful. I was just so excited. I was just there, just being there, and watching people pull up. It really did something for our spirit. And we were not even concerned about whether people would show up or not. It was the action, us doing the action, that the spirit was just doing the action. The movement was enough for us. It was a bonus when people started coming. That was a bonus. So, because we know in the spirit realm what we're doing. We know what we're doing. Our ancestors know what they're doing through us. And we all have the same spirit. That's all of this information, and to one of the previous questions that came up, the spirit, when I first nationalized, I thought about, I heard something about the ADEP chamber, And so I said, well, maybe I should go and see if I can be a part of an ADEP chamber, because we were young in the spirit realm in terms of knowing who we are. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just do that. The spirit wouldn't let me do that either. Because someone was saying, I was asking, I started inquiring, okay, what is the ADEP chamber and how do you get into that? And they automatically told me, no, you can't come in. First of all, because you're a female. And second of all, because you have to go through this many years of classes before you can enter the ADEP chamber. And I was like, and they were charging fiat to do it. So I knew. I said, okay, we're going to have to get our information somewhere else. And then the Spirit said, don't even worry. Like, just keep doing what you're doing. We're going to tell you everything you need to know. And they didn't just tell me, they showed me. They showed me. Like we stated before, our first question and only question really was, how do we get past fake courts and fake policy enforcers? They said, we'll show you how to do it. And straight to jail I went. And they said, just stand. Islam, Empress.
I can attest to that. I wanted to share something with the Congress. I was assisting a sister who's going through her journey, waking up, where she had to go turn in some paperwork in a quote-unquote building. And when we went through, the subjects in the office of U.S. Marshal checked our, moorishe ID cards, and, we went in, and when we came back downstairs, it was several of them that greeted us at the bottom, at the elevators, and I heard them say, those are our bosses.
Believe it and know that.
Those are our bosses, yes.
Believe it.
Yes, love.
Listen, Empress, everyone knows who we are. Everyone knows. They've been looking at us all this time. Now, can you imagine what they were saying when we were worried about light bills and worried about this and worried about that, worried about going to jail? Can you imagine what they were thinking, knowing who we are, and we didn't really know at the time who we were?
Mm-hmm.
They've always known who the bosses were. Even on every job we ever went on, all of us, they knew we were the boss. Everyone knew it.
We just didn't know it.
We just didn't know.
And that was a demonstration for that sister, because she was afraid. And I was like, no. So it was like, we were really shown by the universe. She heard it. I heard it, and they were all standing there at the elevator when we were coming out. And it was like, she looked and she said, did you hear them? I said, yeah, I heard them. And I kept walking.
Empress, I'm surprised that they didn't escort you throughout the building, because usually they keep, the subjects escort us throughout wherever we're going. I know when I went to the, and I'll call it the district court because I'm the head magistrate there too. We all are. They had someone walk with me throughout wherever I went. He just stood and
walk with you.
I was like, this is awesome. I was like, this is great. So, but see, we're not hostile when we go places, because we know who we are. This is our land. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows already. And so I'm just excited for all of us. Empress Nabi, I'm just so grateful to be in the same Congress with you, because you do great work.
Look, the same here.
You do great work.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yes, indeed. I'm honored to be in this Congress with each and every one, because we did it. We did it. I'm excited for us. And then too, my Empress is getting to see some things. She's getting to see how this works. I'm excited for us. So, are there any other questions, comments, wisdom? That is all that I have to share today.
Congress, Islam. If you will, to call me back. I have some emergencies here, but I don't want to be identified. I'd like to leave my number if you could call me back.
Empress, can you stay on after Congress is over? Just stay on the platform, and we'll have our discussion then.
I'm on the phone. I'm not on the internet.
That's fine. Just stay on the phone. Once we adjourn, just stay on the phone, and you and I can speak at that time.
Yes, I can stay on the phone.
Yeah. Islam. Justice Nadine. Justice Nadine.
I'd like to say hello to everybody. Islam to everybody. Peace and love to the Congress.
Islam.
Now, I'm having problems with still having problems with the social. Maybe because I answered a couple of questions.
Yeah.
But, there was a brother who actually wanted to get with me, but he never got with me. And there was another brother who wanted to start his own Congress, and he never got back with me. But what I found out was they said that this is not my phone. When they wanted to do, Direct Express wanted to do a identity check, and they said this was my phone or my email address.
Okay, so let me ask you a question, and I pretty much know the answer. So, have you done a lien on the phone company, quote unquote?
I have done it, but I haven't mailed it. Yes, I have. I've done the only one I mailed was the one on corporate. The lien on corporate.
Okay, so
I have it already, but yeah, I haven't mailed it.
Okay, so how did I know that? Because the system is pointing to that and saying everything has to be corrected. Not just one contract, all of them have to be corrected and made affidavit. You see? So when they say things like that, Justice Nadine, all they're doing is pointing to the rupture, to the problem, to the issue. And then you have to do your documentation and mail it. And see, the thing is, people don't realize that this matrix is what it is. They may not. You might be thinking, well, they don't know whether I put a lien on the phone or not, but the system does. So all they did was look and see that there was still an active contract that had not been properly rebutted, and they just pointed to it.
And you're 100% right.
100%. Islam. This is, Islam. So just so that you know, Justice Nadine, in the future, that whatever they tell you, they're not saying no to the resource because the resource is not theirs. You're the source of the resource. All they're doing is pointing you to things to fix.
Right.
They can't say no to the resource. It's your resource, okay? They can't say no to that.
They're sending me statements because I've missed 3, and they said 3 payments are already on the book, but I got it now.
Yeah.
I'll get to work.
Islam. Thank you for the work that you're doing, Justice Nadine, because it's important work.
Dude, if it wasn't for you and Tajiri Bay and Rod Hayes and Empress Light, man, I'd be dead in the water. And I appreciate
you. Wouldn't.
I yield.
Islam.
Congress. Love.
Islam. Peace and love, nobility. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom from this just awesome, amazing, powerful, almighty Congress?
Islam,
Empress. Empress Rose Powell, how are you?
I am quite well. Thanks for asking.
Good.
In your excitement right now, I'm jumping up and down with you inside of myself. But I do have a question about the launch. So for years I was making greeting cards, and someone gave me a set of greeting cards that I wish to send out to people. They're not actually my cards, but they can serve as an advertisement for my cards following it. And is something like that okay? Because all we're talking about mostly is the natural resource. This is paper. Mm-hmm. My business was paper and wine and cake. So to begin again, it means I have to get a new stamp because, I got to get out of the black stuff and the capitals and all that kind of stuff. So,
have you put the fiduciary document on the public record?
Yes.
Okay, what does your spirit say about the question that you just asked? Because I know your spirit is speaking to you.
I am thinking when you said, if you have too much of something, then that's the thing you want to put out there. So I have too many of those little thank you, and I thought, put that out there.
So at the place that we're at right now, I will tell you, Empress, that whenever I have a question like that I ask the spirit about, the spirit always says to me, do what you will. Because we've done the work.
Right.
We've done we put notification on the public record. The ancestors always say, do what you will. And because they know we're not going to capitulate ever. We're going to always be ourselves. And so it's the intention that counts. So they always just say, do what you will.
Okay, so I will be joining this fabulous launch a little slower than most people, but joining for sure.
Empress, it's only going forever, so do what you will. Islam.
Thank you.
Islam. You are the Lord. So, yes. Islam. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom? Islam nobility.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I have an emergency. As far as I can talk to you after the live conference is over.
Who am I speaking with? Oh, Justice Zinmu.
No, yes. Justice Zinmu. Otape. On the territory.
Yeah, sure. If you'll just stay on after we adjourn, as well with Empress Malika, I can speak to both of you today. Islam.
All right. Yes, Islam.
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
Islam nobility.
Yes, I'm Yataway Obey, calling from speaking from the Khalifa territory.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
My question is this: I wanted to find out what documents are we to send to the subjects of the Treasury?
Send whatever your intention is. We generally sent whatever the spirit tells you to send it based on the demonstrations that you will to do, knowing that you're sending it to a treasury system because you are the treasury.
Right. Well, I know you was talking about, the creditor bond, and I just got done working on that, and I'm ready to send it out with other documents that I'm assuming that's supposed to go out with it.
Always send a copy of your bond. You keep the originals.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, but when I do send that to the Treasury, am I supposed to send something else with it as well?
What does your spirit say?
I'm gonna have to examine that.
So as you're looking at the documents, the spirit will prompt you on send this, or you don't have to send that, but send this one. Let your spirit lead you on what to send based on your intentions. What is your intention for sending these things? And we know it's notification and it's a court action. So just let your spirit lead you, and you will always be right.
Okay.
Okay.
Islam, Empress.
Islam ability. The spirit highlights things as we're reading it. The spirit will highlight, not it, but her or him. The spirit will highlight things that are important for us to note and things like that. And all we're doing is just remembering how to hear the Spirit speak to us. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom from this just amazing? Do you all know how happy you make me? Not make me, but I'm happy when I'm with you. Islam.
Much gratitude to you, Empress.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you so much.
You're a diamond. I mean, it's just it's a joy. Having, I don't know how I got here, but it's just a joy that I made it here. Much gratitude to you.
Thank you, Justice Harold. You willed it, and it happened. We both willed it. We all willed to be here, and boom, here we are. We're that powerful. We are all that powerful. So we will adjourn at this time and meet again on Sunday, so that we can further increase. We will start. What we will to do coming up is to start showing the Internal Revenue filings and documentation to get things going that way, to get that part of our banking taken care of, and and we'll just agree on how to do it, which we've already agreed on how to do it. We restate everything, Islam. So Islam.
This is Nathan Shabis Bey. I would like everybody to look at the 7 shocking things about the Bible. It basically talks about us, the Moors, and who the true Moors were, and what they did, and how the Abians lied about the whole civil. So, with that being said, I yield.
Islam. Let me say this about the Albions.
Okay.
And this is for everyone to just to make a mental note of this. And this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to say it anyway. They didn't lie. They weren't talking to us. They were talking to each other.
Okay.
So a person can't lie to you if you're not listening. They were never talking to us. They were only talking about themselves and to each other, not us. And we were supposed to continue passing the information to our generations and to our ascendants and all of that. They not one time did they lie.
Okay.
We didn't have any business listening.
Well, then I'll just say, pale-faced talks with forked tongue.
You can say that. You can say that. You can say that if you will to. You can say whatever you will to say, but at the beginning and end of the day, even the preachers, they didn't lie. We weren't supposed to be sitting up in there like that.
Pauline could say she has a Land Rover, but she doesn't. Pauline doesn't have a Land Rover. She never will.
Wow. You know what, Morris? I'll say this. I am the Land Rover. I'm the Range Rover.
Where's your seall factory then, bitch?
To the Moors. Islam. Peace and grand
rising. Where's that seall factory on First Avenue? Still waiting on that.
Justice
Where's that seall factory on First Avenue? Are you going to call yourself? Further proof your shit don't work. Further proof that your shit don't work.
Look. All the love. We accept that love. We accept it.
Not wrong. Nothing is wrong with a little entertainment every now and then.
You know what? They are not even talking to us. We know that for sure. Because corpses can't speak to the living.
Peace and grace and rising to all
Yes, indeed. Peace and grand
rising and peace and all the
Hold on, Empress. Empress, I have a question. I had a question, Empress.
Peace and love.
Peace and grand rise to all.
Yes,
I
indeed.
had a question, Empress.
Keep it flow.
Empress, I had a question.